You are listening to the Savage FINcast, Episode 12, Ant and Anniversaries, featuring Erik Larsen.
Chicago. A criminal mastermind called Overlord held our city in his terrifying grip. Ordinary cops were losing the battle against Overlord's super freaks and mutants. Then, a miracle happened. When I found him, he had no memory of his past. I helped him find an identity and a life. Now we have a fighting chance. Now we have the dragon.
This is the Savage FINcast, back again for another episode, and a very special episode it is indeed. We have finally made it, after all these long months, to our 12th episode, quote-unquote, our 1-year celebration. And
A cake?
Yeah, I've forgot the cake. I'm
eating a Twinkie here, so it's all good.
Twinkies are valid.
Got a sponge cake for the celebration.
I am, of course, Jim Purcell.
I'm Craig Olson.
I'm Raven Perez.
And yep, they said we couldn't do it. They said Savage Dragon, one title, could not support an entire podcast. And they may have been right, but we're still here.
I know our 5 readers our 5 listeners appreciate it.
Thanks, Mom.
Hey, we at least got a dozen people listening. Believe me, I got the metrics to prove it.
Dozens of people across the world.
Awesome. Hey, you know what? I'd be happy just to talk Savage Dragon with you guys anyway. And I don't care if 1 people listen or 1 million people listen. It's pretty fun to do this month after month and get a chance to talk to people that have worked on Dragon and get a chance to talk to fellow fans from across the country and overseas in some cases. But I've had a blast this past year.
It is awesome. It is a cool thing. I think even just the FinCast, it's bringing out little things you'd never know, like with the interview with Josh. That was cool, man. It's important work.
If I remember correctly, I sort of came up. I came up with the idea of doing the podcast back last year. This time when issue 175 came out. I figured for a long time I've been thinking about starting a podcast about something, and figured Savage Dragon was as good as anything else, and I knew they had a pretty good group of individuals who were knowledgeable and had a lot to say, and I figured, hey, I might as well ask around, see if anyone's interested, and I got you guys.
Somewhere in a parallel dimension, Jim has like a macrame podcast.
Yeah, it could have been anything.
Well, last year was a crazy. I know, like a bunch of guys that were on Erik Larsen's forum all got together and were like, how can we spread the word of Savage Dragon, because
That's right,
it is such a great title. And I know out of that kind of discussion, we got the FinCast, so you got the podcast, and then Raven and I talked together and we made dragonfan.net, which is just kind of like a blog posting all Dragon news. And I also did some work with Gavin, and Gavin kind of, all his notes kind of really spearheaded the Savage Dragon wiki. So there was a lot that came out of that, and I've had a lot of fun kind of dabbling in all of those different types of things. But I think for me, the FinCast has been one of the, more fun things to do, because like I said, the chance to get to talk to creators and talk to other fans, and the more you talk to people, you find out things you didn't realize, or you just discover things that you probably wouldn't have read just reading the book yourself. But this is it was a great idea, Jim. I'm glad you initiated it.
Absolutely.
So instead of, in our usual episodes, we kind of talk about what we're reading and talk about Erik Larsen news. Since this is our kind of special 1-year episode, I know we have a special interview with Erik Larsen coming up later, but I know we had also talked, and we figured we'd just kind of use this time just to talk about what we've liked and what we've liked about the FinCast in the past year. And we've already kind of started that, but why don't we just talk about, like, what was our what was your guys' favorite episode of the past year?
Well, Raven, you've only come up to the bat in the last couple episodes, so you've been listening to the FinCast since the beginning, though, right?
As a just listener, coloring takes hours, and it is fantastic. Like to have the FinCast going in the background. So yeah, I've listened to every single one of them, and man, the thing that was just amazing to me is that really it wasn't a thing I thought could work. Even I was totally 110% behind you guys. Like I wanted it to work, but I was just surprised that it would be consistently good or that you'd have new things to talk about. And yeah, man, I really do like. I mean, it's just blown me away. One of my favorite episodes. It was almost one of the interview episodes, I would say, but it's even cooler, and because I think it just hasn't happened really in the life of the podcast. But when it was like you guys, Jim, Craig, Gavin was there. You had Adam. It was just like a round table kind of like Dragon fans, and that was a kick butt episode. I can't even remember like what the issue was being discussed, but it was just awesome to hear you guys all just jump in with just different like knowledge and little insights and stuff. I don't know. I like that one a lot. The full
Yeah.
bringing on as many people as possible episode.
Yeah, I agree. I like those too. I like when Adam is on too because he brings a lot as a comic creator, and that's something that I think you bring on too, Raven. Is it's good to have the perspective of somebody that works on comics because I know Jim and I enjoy reading them, but we always don't have that perspective of what it's like to make them.
That's true.
Unless- I
Yes.
don't- yeah. And you guys bring up a lot of good points that and this you haven't been on quite as long, Raven, but Adam would bring up a lot of good points or behind the scenes things that, I definitely wouldn't have thought of and it made the conversations fun.
Oh yeah,
And
I
of
love
course,
it. I love it. Just like that's the thing is like that was what was so awesome about like that like dynamic is like you guys like Craig, Jim, you guys were holding down like the fan like reader opinion, but then you had like Adam who's worked on the book in different ways, Gavin, super fan extraordinaire. I don't know, like I said, just even just being like in your guys brought like your own you were like the A team of reading this book. I love it. Oh no, it's good.
yeah, I wish Gavin could get on more, but he, as we all know, he lives in England. And if you guys are first time listeners listening to this podcast, Gavin Higginbotham is like kind of Eric's right hand man on keeping track of what's going on with his characters. He's like the super of all super fans, and we've had him on a couple of times, but we usually record this at 10 p.m. Eastern time, and that's like I think like 4 in the morning over in the UK, over in England. So it makes it difficult for him to stay involved in that.
To say the
But,
least.
It is fun when when we can get some input from him.
Yeah.
So what was your guys' favorite episodes? I mean, you guys have been, obviously a consistent part of the show. Like the other guests, they float in and out. You guys are like the rocks. So, like, what are you guys' favorite episodes?
Well, I don't have a favorite. I love them all. They're like my children, except episode 0. The recording quality on that one was so bad. I had no idea what I was doing.
I haven't gone back and listened to Zero, and I really don't want to. But the cool thing is Nick Justice was actually the third host on that, and he hasn't been on again since, unfortunately. But he was a good host, and I had fun talking to him on that episode. And he's another comic book creator that had some good insights. So maybe someday we can get him back to guest host or just join us and do some more roundtable type stuff.
I love that. That would be so awesome.
Yeah, I mean, the FinCast works best with like 3 or more, hosts. I know Jim and I don't know if we've done 1 or 2 episodes. It was just the both of us, and they're good, but just having 3 or more hosts really makes it a fun round table.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with just the 2 of us, I was getting kind of worried that we couldn't sustain it over the long term because we were kind of in agreement about a lot of things, which I think with only 2 people can be tough.
Mm-hmm.
I think you need that third person to really, keep the perspective changing enough.
You need that colorful jerk. No, wait. You know what? Oh my God. I totally scratch my opinion. I'm so sorry, but do you know what? What you just said just made me remember. So there was that stretch where it was you and Craig, and I was like, man, they're missing their round table thing, right? It
Yeah.
was the one where you guys were not happy with the episode, and I was like, wow, they're not pulling their punches. They're just tearing into the
Oh,
book.
right, when we were tearing into that last issue
One
of
of the invasion arcs.
episode
Yeah.
7 with no, that was the one with Corey, that wasn't it.
I want to say it was oh man. No, but it was like you guys were like, "Whoa, what was the point of that?"
I don't know if we're that harsh,
No, it
but
was
No.
the Corey Hampshire interview episode. Yeah,
was it?
yeah, we eviscerated that issue of Savage Dragon. I totally copped to that, and I stand by a lot of what I said.
Yeah, well, we got to be true to it. It's if you just sit there and just say you like everyone, what's the point? Like,
That
You
was
know,
good listening
We
though.
learned anything from Erik Larsen, it's always, tell it how it is. Don't hold back just because you want to be nice.
Like if I want to say if anybody if this is your first episode or maybe if you just haven't caught up on all of them, that's a good one to listen to. Cuz it's kind of like this show, this is not just appreciation hour. This is a fairly, I think, honest analysis. I mean, it's cool. I liked that. That was what I was like, man, this is good.
cool, cool. I think my favorite episode was the Josh Acorn episode, just because it's Josh Acorn. The guy you see inside the front cover month after month getting lambasted by Erik Larsen, and he's kind of a big enigma, and I think it was pretty awesome to be able to contact him and be like, hey, this guy's a real person, and he actually had a really awesome personality. Eric beats up on him all the time, and he seems to be the kind of guy that can really take a joke, and he had a lot of fun stories, and I really had a
Tons of
blast kind of
insight.
talking to him.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
that episode
yeah.
really surprised me. I honestly didn't think it was going to go over that well, and it was an experience.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we were talking about maybe we just, do a 30-minute episode. We didn't know how, what kind of personality he had, if, he was going to be a good interview or what, because he's not really a creator. He was Erik Larson's kind of like uh, go-to guy, intern or whatever you want to call it. But, and he hasn't done anything in comics since
You can
what,
say flunky.
Flunky.
Josh doesn't care. He's cool.
But he had good stories, and he didn't pull any punches either. And I think that's more probably because he's not really in the business. But the way he was talking about some of the artists that worked on like Vanguard or the miniseries that didn't hold up their end, it was kind of fun to hear him talk about that. So I really, really enjoyed that. And of course, the Erik Larsen interviews are always freaking awesome. How cool is it that he's so accessible? I think he's been on our podcast
3 times.
3 times, counting this episode, right?
Yes, this will be his 3rd appearance.
Yeah, and he's always, he can talk forever until the dinner bell rings, but that's always fun.
Each time better than the last. He's like, "Oh, sorry guys, I got another home invader." Just like puts the mic down and punches out a
Yeah,
hobo.
I think we're actually kind of blessed. I think there's some other podcasts out there that would bite off their left arm just to get the whatever book's creator on as often as we've had. So I think we've really been lucky.
Yeah, definitely. So in terms of like in the past year, so the FinCast started in November 2011, and just to go through some of the things that we've seen in the Erik Larsen kind of universe happen with in comics. We've gotten 8 issues of Savage Dragon, 175 through 182.
Wah, wah.
We got an issue. Yeah, we got an issue of, which is, that's still okay. When I was thinking about it, I thought it was far less. So, we got an issue of the Next Issue Project anthology, which is kind of Eric's baby with Crack Comics.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah, we got the resurrection of Rob Liefeld's Extreme line, which Eric took
man.
over writing and layout duties on Supreme. We got 3 issues so far of that. We had the announcement of the hardcover collection, which is kind of in limbo. We don't know. That's a Savage Dragon Ultimate hardcover collection. And then recently we just got the announcement of Eric purchasing the Ant character. So in the past year, I mean, we've had a lot to talk about, and in addition to that, we got the Vanguard backup in Savage Dragon, which is by, Frank Fosco and Gary Carlson doing, Frank drawing like the best stuff I've seen him draw, ever. It's just an awesome story. So there's been a lot to celebrate and talk about. What was your some of your favorite stuff out of those issues?
Was
Jim?
Did Twisted Savage Dragon Funnies hit any in this year?
No. I think 175 was the first issue of Vanguard, so
Okay.
it had just
Yeah,
ended.
it just ended. Yep.
Okay.
But I think the Herculean hardcover softcover came out earlier than that. But I think the hardcover of Twisted Funnies may have come out in our period of time. But I don't think we talked.
Yeah, the
about
collection made of. Yeah.
it. Yeah, I never did pick that up. I regret that.
Yeah,
There's still time.
I think of all that, I think the part where the guy got punched in the head was the best part.
What?
You got wasn't I mean like just to me I know it was so weird it wasn't even a Savage Dragon thing but like man Supreme,
Oh yeah, there's just something about that book that I had no expectations for it, and it really has been a very good book. And it's really too bad that it's slowed down.
Just for Erik to take over like a Moore script and draw it, that first issue is pretty awesome. Like all the time he spent on that, and then just to see Corey Hampshire's kind of finals over Erik's layouts, which you can totally tell is Erik's layouts. But it's been a really cool book, and it's cool to see kind of Erik put everything into something else other than Dragon.
Now, it was a very curious, interesting looking book in the sense that you could tell that Erik was following someone else's script to lay it out, but you could tell it was his layouts with Corey's finished works over top of it. It was definitely a mix of I guess creators. Yeah.
I am disappointed that, he did decide to cut his run. Well, I don't know if he decided to cut it run. It seems like he decided to cut his run short. I think we're only going to get like 5 issues, with the last issue being like a double sized or quadruple sized or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely am pouring one out for Supreme just because like I'm a Supreme nerd, but like I don't know, that's inaccurate. But I like the Alan Moore stuff, and I actually did read Supreme when it was out in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And like so for me this was like just kind of like holy crap. Like you got Erik Larsen doing this like Supreme character, which is fantastic. And then like he followed up on the Alan Moore thing and totally killed it. Like it wasn't even like, that was okay, but you could tell he wasn't doing his thing. He killed it. And then to hear it get cut short, I don't know. It's a heartbreaker.
Yeah, definitely. I wish it was more, but we've heard Erik talk again and again on the interviews that he's got a bunch of other stuff that he wants to come out, and we've heard about a bunch of stuff on his interviews. We've heard about that Treasury edition type book with him and Bruce Timm that he wants to get out. There's that weird book that all we've ever seen is like that 2-page splash that everyone dubs the Scooby-Doo book.
How long ago was that posted? That's getting up there. Going on the 10th anniversary of that.
Yeah.
The 10th anniversary of an unnamed double-page spread.
Well, he's always got something up his sleeve. Remember for a period of time he was about to take over like all like the Pacific Comics like Kirby stuff at one point, and he kind of decided against it, but he was pretty gung-ho, and they actually made like marketing materials for it at one point.
I thought he lost access to the rights or something. I can't remember what happened to that because it all wound up at Dynamite. Or some of it did.
But from what I understood,
Silver Star and all those other characters.
Yeah, he decided against it, and then a couple years later, it kind of showed up there. But I don't know. I don't know how it turned out. But he seems to always have like something going on, and now we're just hearing about him purchasing Ant. So it sounds like he'll have another ongoing with that.
Yeah.
Which I don't know about you guys, but don't you think that's like, I don't know, I kind of got that like Supreme feeling again.
Well, yeah, I mean, I got the same feeling. Here's a character I have no interest in, but I love the creator, so I'm going to give it a shot, and we'll see what kind of magic comes from that.
That's it.
I'm really hoping that he does pencils and lets someone else ink. I think that will keep it going like quickly, but I also just want to see like someone else ink Erik, because we get to see everything on Dragon. It'd be nice to see, someone inking Erik on another book. Like I love like those old Spider-Man with Terry Austin. Is that how you say Austin inks on Eric's pencils, but I'd love to, just see a monthly with, Erik and a different inker, and I think he kind of touches on that at some point.
I don't think I have a preference. I'll take it either way, as long as Savage Dragon comes out on time, I guess, or whatever he's happy doing. I mean, it's really up to Erik and what he's interested in doing and putting his energy into.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It is a good time to be like a fan, just because I had a weird like personal like weird correlation. Like I fought my local comic guy and stopped buying comics for the year where there was like no Savage Dragon. So I missed the drought. So like I've never had that period of like bad, like, man, there was just nothing to talk about this year. There was just nothing. There's always been something. So this is a killer year though. I mean, like 2012, you want a year in review? This was a pretty awesome year for him.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much going on, so much news. It's just so much.
And then, next month with the next issue, we'll get to finally find out who the new Overlord is and stuff like that. So he's always kind of got something going that's newsworthy and pretty exciting, I think. And it amazes me that, he's a one-man show kind of, and, just his work ethic. I know he only got 8 issues out, but like we said, we look at everything else that was going on in the background, and, he does a lot of work. And you look at guys that are like doing their own creator-own stuff and can't get out like 2 issues a year, And this guy
Stain.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of those, a lot of books, a lot of Image books, a lot of whatever, even guys working for Marvel, it seems like, they can't keep a huge run,
Yeah, it's kind of ridiculous right now with the amount of books that get dropped or change creative teams or just stop coming out. It's disheartening.
Yeah.
Because that's like number one. That's the number one problem with getting anybody on board comics, new readers, is that there's no stability. There's no, I don't know, there's no consistency.
You're right.
Yeah.
There was what was that Mark Millar with the dude Nemesis, I guess?
Yeah.
Or was it maybe one of the Kick-Ass series? But
one of the other 6 dozen books he writes.
But I noticed that there was that was a 2012 thing. There was this ridiculous, huge gap between the 3rd and 4th issue, the 4th being the finale. I completely lost interest.
Yeah.
Well, dude, I'm still waiting for War Heroes to finish up.
Oh, God, War Heroes. He's put all his energy into Clint 2.0 because the first time it didn't take.
And what was that Joe Casey book, Raven? You hit on it, I think, last.
Oh, Butcher Baker, the Righteous Maker.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah,
how long did it take?
9 months to come out, but it was totally worth the wait.
That one did actually stick the landing. I was okay with that, but I hated
but it takes forever between.
I think
they had creator issues.
I had creator issues because the first 7 issues, because it's only supposed to be 8 issues long, the first 7 issues came out pretty much on time.
Yeah.
The 8th issue just took forever because I think they just had a breakdown of creative differences and just took forever to get the artist to get the work done.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, but it's going to be really bitchin' hardcover.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and that's the cool thing about, Savage Dragon, too, is that, it all comes out of, Erik's studio. He does everything. So he's not really waiting on anybody else. Or if it is, like, if he ever had to wait on, a colorist or a letterer, it's easy enough to, replace, a colorist or a letterer on short notice or something like that. Whereas, instead of, having to deal with a writer or an artist, that you start getting creative differences or whatever like that. So,
yeah, it is a blessing just to have it all come from one like source. It keeps it uniform. It keeps it consistent. And, I don't know. There's just not that chance for like petty squabbles, to ruin things.
Tell you what, I don't know how.
It's one guy's vision.
I don't know how Robert Kirkman does it, because I think that's why he's been so successful, is because he just gets his books out on time, and
That's it.
that's it. That's all you got to do,
Well,
really.
and what he'll do is if something slows up, he'll switch the artist, and we've seen that done. We've seen, Ryan Otley take over for Cory Walker, and we've seen Charlie, Adlard, or how do you say his last name?
I think you got it.
Adler.
I
Yeah.
think you got it.
Adlard take over for Tony Moore, and those are right around the time where those guys are slowing up. I mean, Tony Moore, I don't think can draw like a book consistently over a year. Like I've followed all of his books because I totally love his art, but I've never seen him do more than like 3 or 4 consecutive issues.
Did he
And the
finish
same
up
thing for-
Exterminators? How did that series end up?
I don't know.
I lost interest after that, but I don't think he finished it. No, I
Right.
think someone else took it on.
Because I know he didn't finish Fear Agent.
No,
Oh, did that not end?
Well, it ended, but they would do arcs, so he would do like 3 or 4 issues, and then Jerome Opena would do like 3 or 4 issues.
Well, I don't mind that sort of thing as long as it's planned. I mean, Fables does that with Mark Buckingham.
No, but I mean that's all because I don't think Tony Moore can consistently put
Yeah.
out a book, so that's why they do it that way. So
like Mark's Silvestri, he do about 2 issues and needs a break.
yeah,
I don't know. I don't mean to be a jerk, but creatively, if I was able to create something I wanted for my living, it would be just, I mean, I couldn't think of a good reason other than life stuff, like, oh, I gotta move, or oh, my mom, is
Yeah.
sick. I can't think of a reason to slow down. Like,
You gotta wonder sometimes. I mean, this is your career. I mean,
yeah, this is your 9 to 5.
what else?
just-
what are you doing? What else are you doing? I mean, yes, I mean you might have a life going on, but
But you don't got to do that. You could just make the pages. The thing is like here's the thing is like so I mean I'm not Johnny Pro and I'm bad to miss a deadline cuz life stuff comes up. But the thing is that I love what I do. So it is fun to be drawing. It is actually as fun or I've kind of stopped playing video games because I have more fun drawing.
right?
So
I need to get
It-
that way.
I'm just saying though, but like when you love something, it is fun. And all I can think is that for the guys that are like missing their deadlines or like just like can't get 2 issues out or whatever, that maybe they had some other goal, like they were an illustrator and just comics was easy work for them because they're good. But like if
Yeah.
you're a comic artist, like you got to make pages. And so that's what separates, illustrators from comic artists. So
That
I
makes
don't
some
know.
sense, yeah.
I think also too on some of these things, like in terms of Image Comics, some of these guys are taking on like work from the big 2 that pays up front and pays better money, and
Right.
ends up the Image stuff takes a back seat until they can go back after they finish their
Well,
their
that
Marvel
makes
stuff.
sense. I mean, that's understandable to a certain extent because the realities of the economy and comic industry and all that. But it's the people who are on those dream projects that they get paid for at the big 2, and they
Yeah,
still don't
yeah.
deliver.
Yeah, exactly. When you can't get your Marvel book out the door, then what's your
You've
excuse?
had 4 or 5 months of heavy promotion, and you blow it out the door. There's just so many stories of that, and all right, yeah, it's just disheartening sometimes. And now we've gotten
should-
delightfully off topic.
Yeah, we should
Sorry.
move on. We have We have
Rant
Erik
about
Larsen waiting
history
for.
over.
We have Erik waiting, and we want to give enough time to get the interview done with him, and we don't want this episode to last 3 hours. So I'd rather talk with Erik and get a lot out of him on what's going on with his stuff. So what do you say we wrap this section up? You
All
guys
right.
have any last thoughts or?
Here's to
It's
12 more episodes.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
been fantastic to listen, and I'm even more excited to join you guys, and I know it's going to be good.
Yeah, looking forward to getting some more people to interview, and
Yeah, we got a list. I think you've got a master list somewhere. We got some names.
yeah, guys like Mark Englert did Mighty Man and God War.
I want to talk
I'm
about
gonna-
Mighty Man. I pulled that out recently. I think we should try to get Mark Englert on sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think we can try to do that. see if he'll join us. Michel Fife, I'm sure I butchered his name, but like we said, Twisted Savage Dragon Funnies. I know he said he'd be down to talk to us early in 2013. We had other names that we kind of talked about, like Corey Walker for his work on Super Patriot, Gary Carlson, who's the creator of the Megaton anthology, where some of the first issues of Savage Dragon, non-canon Savage Dragon, appeared.
I think we want him on when Vanguard wraps up. So
yeah,
I
he's
think
the writer
we'll
of
see,
Vanguard. And,
hopefully hear from him in a couple months.
yep, and Big Bang, which also used guys like characters like Mighty Man, Big Bang Comics. And then, guys like Chris Eliopoulos, who was the letterer for Savage Dragon for the longest time. And then we also talked about maybe some long shot type guys, like maybe Dave Johnson, who did Super Patriot, or Vic Bridges, who did drew Freak Force, and don't really know what he's up to now these days. And we always joke about Robert Kirkman, and I think he's probably
I think he's a little beyond us at this point, Mr. Hollywood.
We missed that window.
Got to talk to his agent.
I actually, like way back when at a con, I got him to sketch me a Sleepwalker sketch because he was, working on a Sleepwalker story for Marvel. That's back when you could just approach him. His line was like 5 people long. It's pretty amazing to see like how
some
far he's
Superman
gone.
knockoff and some zombie crap. What he's gonna mount to?
Yeah,
my friend got confused and thought that he was the artist of Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
And so he went to a con for me. I couldn't make it. And he told him, he's like, my friend says you're an awesome artist. You got to draw him a zombie. So I have a Robert Kirkman zombie sketch.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah, totally. I was like, oh man, this is weird and cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. So, all right, well, let's wrap this up and
let's go talk
get
to
Erik
the
on
man in
the line.
charge, Erik Larsen.
Cool.
So we're here with our personal superhero, Erik Larsen. See, it's funny because he makes superhero comics.
Don't you believe it? Yeah, I get it. There you go.
Thanks for joining us, Erik.
Sure. I'm gonna be inking while we're talking, if that's all right. You don't mind, do you? You're not gonna hear scritching because I'm using markers at the moment.
You're not going to be yelling at your kid to do his homework?
It's really awesome. My son's in a new school, and they do all their homework at school. So he gets home, and it's just screwing off time for him.
Yeah, I remember you said they have to like spend 2 extra hours a day in school or something.
Yeah, he comes home like it's dark. It's ridiculous, but you know what? Whatever.
Yeah, I think I would have chose that option too, though, back then, rather than have to bring anything home with me.
Yeah, it sounds like we would get a lot more out of that in the long run.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
Cool.
Never did homework at home anyway.
5 minutes more class.
Wow. And yet here you are, a functioning adult, or nearly.
It's misleadingly named.
So what's going on? What's happening?
Yeah, let's do this. We want to talk to you about Ant. Yeah,
What?
That's what the world wants,
weeks.
not dragon.
Yeah. What the world wants to know is, what the hell, man?
It's a
Yeah,
surprise.
So at this point, pretty much all your fans know you own the character. Can you talk a little bit about your decision to purchase Ant and what went behind that?
It was kind of a weird situation. Well, I mean, to kind of set it up, when I was the publisher at Image Comics, there were many different people who approached me about taking their books to Image Comics or wanting to be part of the whole Image Comics experience. And one of them was Mario Gully, who had Ant over at Arcana and wanted to bring it over to Image Comics because he's big Image Comics guy, big fan of what we did, and wanted to be part of that whole thing. He sent me copies of everything that he had done over at Arcana with the character, and I read it over, And my conclusion was, while I found the character visually compelling, I thought conceptually it didn't really work, because Ant, in the context of that comic, was a 10-year-old girl who was always like getting beat up and just had a kind of a miserable life. Single parent who is busy, not always there. And so she kind of her way of functioning in the world was to dream up these adventures that she would illustrate in her diary about herself as a superhero called Ant, which, while you found the girl very sympathetic and her plight very sympathetic, the problem was whenever she got into the Ant adventures, there's no connection there, because Ant was
Yeah.
never really in trouble because Ant wasn't real. And Ant couldn't really meet anybody because Ant was drawings in a kid's diary. Ant couldn't function with all the other characters and interact with all the other characters because she didn't exist. So talking to Mario about it, part of the conversation was, in order for this character to work in the Image Comics universe, she has to become an actual character. She has to be real. She has to be able to interact with the other characters, which was a conversation, and it was something that he came around to and seemed to be okay with, but he had to kind of wrap his brain around. And he, there was just parts of it where he wasn't quite ready to make the jump. He hadn't quite thought through everything that could go on and should go on with the character in order to bring it to Image. He kind of approached it in a way where he was like, well, rather than tackle the tough part of this, which is the whole setting up of who she is and where she came to be, he decided he was going to make all of that a mystery. And so he essentially took out the introduction part and jumped ahead and had her be already an established hero, suddenly with amnesia, going, how come everybody knows who I am and thinks I did something awesome, but I don't know really what I did? What the hell's going on here? Which is it's kind of an okay approach, but it did kind of mean skipping over a huge chunk of the character meeting people. You know, she would come into contact with Spawn, or come into contact with Savage Dragon, or other characters in her book, and every conversation seemed to be, oh, I totally know you already, and we had this great adventure that you have no access to remembering, and the reader has no ability to see. And in any case, because I was really part of the conversation process of trying to get this thing going and making a real effort to line up different characters that could be in the book to try and help give his book something of a boost, Mario was very aware that I thought that the character had a lot of potential, and he was very aware that I liked it and was actively trying to find a way to make it work, even though inevitably it fell apart and it didn't work. He had gone through a number of different people that he was working with as a co-creator. He wasn't really all that comfortable scripting, and so he had help from 4 different people throughout the 11 issues. And he wrote some of the stuff himself, so there were 5 writers over the course of 11 issues, and they didn't all see eye to eye, and they would kind of contradict each other and write things into and out of continuity, and it was something of a jumble.
Right.
But
Did you
what?
did you bring in like Joe Keating and stuff, like a lot of the co-writers or whatever? Was that on your recommendations?
Yeah, I brought in Joe for sure. and some of the other guys were just people who kind of came to him. And I think after Joe, there was some other dude who was kind of whispering sweet nothings into his ear and promising him the moon and saying, "I'll
Yeah.
make it work. You don't need that Keating guy. I've got better ideas." And
Mm.
and ultimately, he ended up kind of being suckered into going in some different directions that I don't think he was comfortable going in, and that inevitably weren't that strong for the book, and were just just kind of didn't work all that well. So eventually, he ended up the book ended up getting canceled because it just wasn't doing that well, and they wanted to take it elsewhere and do it on their own and show that, hey, we can make this happen, whatever. And they took it elsewhere, and Mario wasn't as involved with it. He had since moved on to doing stuff over at Marvel, and then ultimately it just ended. It came to a close, as a lot of things do seemingly when they leave Image Comics. Um, a lot of guys who, especially who weren't making their deadlines on their own with us, when they go off on their own, didn't continue to not make their deadlines, basically. And so
Yeah.
that kind of had gone on there. There was, I would think, some trust issues with retailers, thinking, you know what, we've seen a bunch of guys leave Image Comics before, and it's never really worked out all that well.
Hmm.
And so,
Well,
ultimately it didn't work where they were. And Mario came to me more recently and said, "Look, I'm in a situation where I have to sell Ant. I've got somebody who's interested in buying Ant, but I'd rather sell her to you." And it is kind of similar to what happened with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 15 years earlier, in that I had used the Turtles a couple times in some Dragon stories. And when they had decided that they didn't want to be publishing the Turtles anymore and they wanted a break from it, they contacted me and said, "There's all these different people who are vying to do the Turtles. We want you to do it, even though don't even want the job." And so this is kind of a similar thing. I didn't know that this was in the pipeline. I didn't know that this was something that he wanted to do, but the guy called me up and told me what was going on and said, "Here's the deal. It's the character is going somewhere. It can go with you, or it can go somewhere else, and then somebody else is going to be doing it. But I know you like the character, so are you interested?" And I thought about it, and I just ultimately decided, yeah, I guess I am. I guess I, and I, and the more I thought about the character, and I thought about what I could do with the character and the stories I could tell, and kind of wanted to be able to see if sort of my initial thoughts on it, if that was something that was in fact viable, if I could do it the way that I wanted to do it back then, would it be successful? The difference being that I'll be much more involved than I would have been at that point, or could have been at that point.
right.
There's
Well,
that.
you could tell that you always kind of liked the character, because even thinking back then, I felt like you were giving this guy, like, seemed like even more chances than you normally would. Like, you would be the first one to be like, oh, your stuff's not good enough or whatever, but weren't you doing like some layouts for him? You were like lending him characters to use.
It was kind of nuts. I mean, there was, from going over logos and trying to come up with a logo for it, to doing cover sketches for a couple of the issues, um, lining up guest stars to be in the book, trying to find other writers who could work with him when ultimately he decided he couldn't do that himself. Talking to his colorists, talking to various other people along the way, trying to smooth out relationships and just make it work. it was I put a hell of a lot into it, and I think a lot of the other creators that were at Image Comics were kind of going, "Hey, what the hell, man? Why are you giving this guy so much attention and making such an effort here when you're not necessarily giving me that kind of love?" And in some cases, like, well, you don't really need that. You're more. You can do that kind of stuff on your own. And I think this guy kind of needed some more help, needed a little more hand holding and needed a little more guidance. And
But did it stem because it was the character, like that you really liked the character and thought it could be something really awesome? Because I don't think any normal, like there's tons of guys out there that really would need help or whatever, and
yeah,
can't help everyone.
It was the character ultimately, and it came down to, I just think, visually speaking, it is one of the more iconic characters that has been designed in the last 20 years. There's a lot, and especially female characters who generally speaking, have been just very derivative. It's like we got Superman there, Supergirl. We got Captain Marvel, here's Mary Marvel. We've got Spider-Man, here's Spider-Woman. We've got Hulk, here's She-Hulk. We've got Red Hulk, we got Red She-Hulk. We've got a female thing. We've got a female, whenever there's a cool male superhero, there gets to be this female counterpart. You like Captain Marvel, here's Ms. Marvel, all the way down the line.
Yeah.
So here's a situation where somebody had created this iconic kind of female superhero who could stand on her own and wasn't derived from some other male character. And, and I'm just looking at that going, this is something. This could be more than it is. Let's make an effort to try and turn this into something else. And ultimately, that's what I'll be doing is trying to make the most of it.
Is it strange owning a character that someone else created? I mean, I don't think I've really come across a situation quite like this.
It is very weird. I mean, and in some ways it's very wrong, but in other ways it's kind of this is what creator ownership kind of is all about. Is that one of those things you can choose to do is you can choose to sell your characters. I mean, Jim Lee did the same thing, that he sold his characters and they were now owned by DC Comics. This is a different situation, just in that it's being sold to another creator rather than to a corporation.
But you feel hesitant, like it's gonna be like that adoptive child syndrome, where like you adopt a child and the original parents come back looking for it, or like Mario's gonna bug you and be like, oh, I want Aunt back or whatever, or does that weird you out, or are you?
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, or if we come to it, we'll see what happens there.
Yeah.
You're still trying to keep Mario involved, right? I mean, you want him to complete his Image run, right, with the 12th issue.
Yes, and we're kind of going at it in an interesting kind of way, in that part that was part of the initial thing when I was saying I was doing a lot of stuff on Ant initially. Part of that was eventually, okay, well, if this is going to wrap up, I had drawn a beginning to the story for him. Like, okay, here you go. He had drawn an 8-page sequence, and then he'd started his issue and he'd said, I got to go do something else. I'm hip deep in this Marvel stuff, and I don't have time to finish it, or I may have to get somebody else to help me, whatever. And I thought, well, if you're going to be leaving, or if this book is going to end, let's sort of wrap things up and do a nice last issue and put a bow on it. And so he'd done the first eight pages or something. And so I laid out the rest of the issue for him and said, here, this will work. And he got it and he was like, this is perfect. And then for whatever reason, he ended up taking the book elsewhere and never finishing those pages that I laid out for him. When he came back sometime later and said, oh, okay, I want to do this, I want to sell you this character, he also said, I would really like to be able to end on a nice note and have a last issue and just be able to say goodbye. And so I was like, you know what, that's perfectly fine. I've already done the layouts and you've got those 8 pages. And he was like, well, the problem is I don't actually have those 8 pages anymore. It's been several computers ago and all that stuff's lost and I don't even remember what was on them. And an additional problem cropped up in that he had co-created a couple of those characters with the writer who was working on the book at the time. And that writer ended up getting control of those characters. So I'm sitting there going, so we've got a beginning of the story that was in issue 11. We got 8 pages now that can't be used, that are just a mystery. We don't even know what the hell happened on them. And then we've got the end of this story, and somehow or other, I gotta make all this stuff work. So what I ended up doing was I laid out a new 8-page sequence that bridged what issue 11 and led up to where I had started the layouts and the other thing, and I essentially got rid of all of his characters that had been in the book immediately. Panel 1 is basically Ant ducking from an explosion as whoever she was with gets turned into dust. Gavin would be proud.
They're in the sewer there at the end of issue 11, if I recall. Right? Something like that. Are they in the sewer, like her and that other character? Like at the end of issue 11 or something?
Yeah, at the end of issue 11, they're in the sewer, and it's like, here, take it. And so I start off with them being found by whoever, and wacky hijinks ensue after that, and we just kind of pick it up, drop it, essentially tie a bow on the series and end it. And then what I'm doing with it afterward is kind of stepping way back and going, because there was that whole middle period that he had skipped, which was the kind of the important part of a character's life, is just kind of their origin, who they are, and how they came to be. And that part was skipped over. So my thought was, if I'm going to do the book, I want to start with her origins, start with how she got to be and her earlier part of her career and everything kind of leading up to that second volume, which was, his was called Volume 2. And so I'm just going to come in and I don't even know. At this point, I'm kind of tempted to just call it Volume 1, even though it's coming after Volume 2, but it's my first volume.
Right.
And chronologically, it takes place before the stuff that he did. I'm kind of not sure at this point how I'm going to segue from once I tell her origin story and once I tell some first few adventures, how I'm going to leapfrog past the stuff that he's already done. But I think I can just say, hey, this happened, not really give you a whole lot of information as to what happened and why it happened. And I don't know. I think I can make sense of it all, is what I'm saying.
So your intention is to work with what came before and not start all over again with the whole...
Yes. Yeah, I actually really don't like that. When people just kind of scrap all continuity and just say, hey, it was all a dream. Sorry, folks. I just think that's really, really unfair. to the readers who had invested any time in it at all. And it's just kind of just lazy in a way.
True.
Where you're just like, yeah, there's all this stuff here, but I don't want to read it. And it's like, if you want it, you can get to your stories in various ways. And why not play fair about it and play fair with the reader and just get there. So anyway, that's my big point.
So because you own some of these characters, well, actually, can you tell us what you do own? Do you own just the Ant character, or do you own all of the Image issues so you can put out a trade, or?
I believe that I have rights to put out a trade for everything that exists. It would be a very weird trade. I mean,
yeah.
It'd be 12 issues full of stops and starts and all sorts of stuff. I don't know if I can really go in and edit the crap out of it and make it into something else. I don't know that I can really do that. I can probably, I think it's probably fine for me to take out the various typos that were in there, but
you could always get it on Comixology though, put it on there.
Yeah, actually, my first thought on the whole thing was just to take those 11 issues, do a light edit in terms of, getting rid of whatever typos or strangenesses that are in some of them, and then just say, here they are in Comixology, nickel a piece or whatever, and just do it that way. So it's out there if people want to read it, and if they don't want to read it, I don't think it's really that necessary, just as it's not really that necessary to read the first 11 issues of Daredevil if you're reading Daredevil now,
I'm just thinking in terms of Mario's going to put out an issue 12. I mean, the series hasn't been out since 2007. People are going to be like,
It's going to be very weird. I'll tell you that much.
I mean, I think it might...
This is a sequel to what now? Why does this issue 12 even exist? It's just Mario getting an opportunity to say goodbye. It's really what it is.
It's actually a bit Supreme-ish because your first issue, of course, was written by Alan Moore, and for a series that hadn't been published in X number of years.
Yeah, there's that. And also, in Supreme, like those back issues really aren't that available.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
And Supreme started on volume 2, quote unquote. So you can call your Ant volume 1, I think.
Yeah, I mean there was a real volume 1 that came out through Arcana, so that was the idea there that we've already done a volume 1, so this is volume 2 where we're starting with the characters somewhat older and wiser and what have you.
Maybe you can call it Ant Year 1 or something.
Yeah, I could do that. Or
you could call it Ant Volume 0 to really throw everybody off.
I do. Ant Chapter 1, cash in all those John Byrne fans.
I mean, as far as like Ant goes, I'm not super worried about going back. I just don't care. I'm gonna just go forward.
I don't think you need to read. In fact, and in some ways, reading over it makes it a little more confusing. That's not for me. So I'm just not gonna get. I'm just gonna try not to get too carried away with that and trying to catch readers up too much. It's just I think at a certain point, more information becomes less informative than it is more informative.
Right, it winds up feeling clunky, too obsessed with its past than getting with its future.
Yeah, I mean, basically what you need to know with Ant is that she's the good guy and she's fighting bad guys. All right, let's go. Take it from there. If you find out in the course of the issue that, hey, she's had amnesia, she's had a lot of false starts, she doesn't really know what the hell's going on with her life, she's been fed a lot of lies, a lot of misinformation, and And then by the end of the story, she gets that information. She knows what's gone on in her life. She's up to speed, and she's, reunited with her family, and things lives happily ever after. Then you can kind of go, you know what? I didn't really need to know all this stuff that's being put to a lie. Why do I need to know this stuff that didn't turn out to be true anyway? Who cares? I'm caught now. I know who the character is now, essentially, and I either like her or don't. But we'll see too in terms of Mario. I don't know that he's. It's kind of the ball's in his court as to whether he's going to jump on it immediately or whether he's going to not jump on it immediately. And I'm not pressuring him at all to get his story done, because it's not necessary that it comes first.
I think it's almost good for you to have your number 1 come first, because I feel like if a number 12 comes first, it's going to steal the thunder from the sales of your number 1 to get people jumping on.
And you can use your relaunch as a promotional tool to explain what issue 12 is supposed to be.
Yeah, there's that. So I mean, people have kind of questioned my sanity in letting that exist too. It's like there's a lot of questioning of sanity lately.
It's definitely an interesting situation.
Excuse me?
I said it's definitely an interesting situation. I mean...
yeah, I'll give you that.
What are your plans for the book itself? Are you planning on taking full duties on, like, Savage Dragon? Like, writing, penciling, inking?
I'll probably be writing, penciling, and working with somebody who's going to ink it. And I don't know who that individual is yet necessarily. I've had a couple thoughts, but probably try out a couple of guys, see who can kind of finish my start and make something of it.
That's very cool. I look forward to seeing that. It's always a treat.
Supreme, I like that. So.
Yeah, I mean I don't. Supreme kind of ended up blowing up in my face to some extent, in that I kind of relied more on one guy than I perhaps should have, because ultimately he ended up taking on a bunch of other work and not being able to devote himself completely to doing Supreme, and then deadlines have plagued the series, and what's ended up happening is he keeps saying, you're going to have everything in next week, and it's like, okay, well then I'm not going to make some other plans to get somebody else to help out, and then next week rolls around and it's not there, and you're like, well, now what? I'm a week behind, and he's still saying next week. So am I to believe that next week is next week now, or should I be, scrambling to get something else in there? So it's kind of been a real headache, and I'm thinking with Ant that it will be, let people know ahead of time, hey, and if you blow this deadline, you're gone.
Right. So, switching gears, since we're talking about Supreme, do you have any idea when we'll see number 67? Is it
close? I have no idea. I've seen some pages from it. I didn't end up laying out the whole issue. It was kind of clear as the stuff has progressed that Corey wanted to be drawing it, and so I kind of backed off on the art department. I laid out the first 7 pages. He kind of did pencils on the first 7 and took some real liberties with what I had done. And so I was like, why are we doing this? If you're gonna change it so much, you want to draw it. And then as soon as I made that commitment to actually letting him draw it, that was the point that suddenly he slowed to a crawl. It's like, well, dang it, now what? So we'll see what happens now, and then the next question is, okay, what do you do for the issue after that? Do you trust that this guy is going to be able to do some of it, or do you just kind of move on, or what the hell, man?
Right. And that's, your plans are to make that an 80-page giant, and
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you said that you'd have different artists doing like a bunch of backups with just like a normal size.
Yeah. There's many plans. How many of those end up coming to fruition at this point? I don't know, because it's not exactly setting the world on fire, and so
If it's not,
like, all right,
it's too bad.
No, it's you of course go into everything wanting for it to be everything to be wonderful, and then when there are big delays and huge deadline problems, that really cuts into stuff. And so when
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's really too bad. It almost seemed like the book was coming out on time for the first 4 months there. It felt like
it was
a lot of real energy behind it.
Yeah, and then as soon as that fifth month rolled around, suddenly it wasn't there. And
yeah, I mean, I think that's the big problem for Image Comics, which kills the sales, is when someone can't keep their deadlines. When the momentum dies, people lose interest. And
Boom!
I think
United.
Yeah.
Well, there's that, and there's also, I mean, Ant was in the same boat, really. It started off, and the first few issues came out in a row, and it was clicking along just fine. And then Mario got distracted by different people trying to talk to him about video games or toys or statues or whatever, and he got sucked into getting involved and trying to make these other things work, neglected the comic, and then there would be the gaps between issues, sales would go down, and then it would be like, well, I'm not making the money on it that I need to be making. So when Marvel came knocking, he was like, well, I'm going to go do this, and then that's that, and that's how that ends up all falling apart.
I think that's something like Kirkman really does well at Image, is when he sees like I remember Invincible sales started going down when it started slowing up with Corey, and then you bring Ryan on and you find an artist or whoever that can turn out stuff regularly, and that's what keeps fans involved. Like The Walking Dead with Charlie, you can keep an artist on that can draw month after month and get things turned in. That's what's going to keep people.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure it pissed off the other artists, that it's like, hey, this is my book, and it's like, well, you didn't perform, man. You got to do that. That's part of the biz, is you got to actually produce this stuff on a monthly basis, and get this stuff done. That's gotta happen.
It's a real testament to both of those workhorses that he found too. That both of those issues, both those series are to issue 100 now, which just like makes my brain explode. I can't even believe it. For an Image book, that's like incredible.
Yeah. It's
well, I mean,
cool.
how many other creator-owned guys have 2 books that are gonna hit 100 or have hit 100?
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it doesn't
awesome.
happen very often, for sure. So yay.
Cool.
Let's hope.
Erik, sorry, you still?
Yeah, I'm still here.
You posted up some mock-ups with the Ant logo that you're toying around with. Do you think that's the one that you're going to go with?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
I really dig it.
You can read it from space.
Yeah.
And that's really what I want from a logo. And that was the one thing that I kept pushing on with everybody when we were talking about designing logos for things. It's like, how can we get this? The ultimate logo is ROM Space Knight, because it's 3 letters, and you could just, is the new issue of ROM in? Well, you can tell the minute you walk in the store, because it's visible from one end of the store to the next. There's no sitting there scanning the rack. Where's the new issue of, Ant has got that logo, which is like, holy crap, man. That thing dominates the cover.
The advantage of a short name. You're not going to see the logo for League of Extraordinary Gentlemen across the room.
Yeah. Well, it's like that was the battle with Savage Dragon all the time, was how do I make this more legible? How do I make it more distinctive? and part of the reason for dropping the word "the" out of the logo early on was, I could make the word Savage bigger, I could make it more readable, and then even squishing the logo so that it wasn't as tall as it was, just made it so those letters weren't so tall and skinny and frail, and just had more oomph to them.
Yeah.
Who designed the original Savage Dragon logo?
I did a pencil pass at it. I did kind of a version that I just drew out in pen, and then Chris Iliopoulos did the original logo, and then all tweaking was by me afterward.
Did Chris do most of the logos for like your team books or your solo books and stuff like that, or was that?
He did Freak Force. He did Super Patriot. Somebody at the Image office did the Deadly Duo. I'm not even sure who did that. What else was there? Star, I think, was just a fun, just different.
We don't talk about the Star book here.
Star?
Not Star. I'm sorry, Dark.
Yeah, Dark. No, there's other books which remain nameless. And
yeah, we don't talk about Dark. I'm sorry. Star was good, actually.
Star was a great book.
Star was okay. Star was fun.
And Herrera.
Yeah. Where'd he end up? I don't know.
You got Vanguard too. Who created the
Yeah,
Vanguard?
Vanguard was also Chris.
Yeah,
that's a good logo. That's a solid logo. I had done a logo for that years ago. Actually, the new issue has my stellar logo on the back cover. Such as it is. It's all curvy and terrible.
It's all thin. And he did like a Liberty League logo, I think, too, at some point, just fooling around.
If he did, I haven't seen it.
I thought he
did there was a Mighty Man one that he had done, and that one was used. I don't. If there's a Liberty League, I don't know where it would have.
I have it somewhere. I can show. I think he did it like a bunch of fans were doing, like way back in the 90s, were doing some kind of like web comic, and he like made a logo for them or something. I gotta find it. I can email it to you if I find it.
All right, Chris is the nicest guy in the world, so it would not surprise me at all to find him doing something like that. Yeah, so you can see Chris's logo. He's just flat out ripping me off. Just looking at the two here. Yeah.
So speaking of Vanguard, is there I know the serial is going to come to a close. Is there a chance? Are you thinking about collecting the serial like you did Mighty Man, or have you not thought about it, or no, or?
I don't know. It's certainly possible. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not. How many parts does it end up being? 12.
12, I think.
So.
I think it's some of Frank's best work, honestly.
I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And he just keeps getting better at it, which is really cool.
Well, his covers are amazing, and it hit me that I've never really seen him do any kind of cover work until this serial, and he really has he can tell a good story with his covers.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and he just keeps he's finding it. I think initially his inking was a little scratchy, and then as time's gone on, it's just gotten more and more confident, and so I think it's working now. Whether or not people would be jumping up and down and supporting it as a book, as a trade, I don't know, and that becomes the big question: is are people going to buy the book?
Yeah.
And if they don't, then that was wasted effort on everybody's part, and if they do, awesome.
Have have you ever thought about doing the Kickstarter thing? It seems like everyone's doing it these days. I mean, is that something that you're just not into, or?
I guess maybe that's a possibility. I've never I don't even really know about it. I know that it exists, but I've not gone and watched any of the videos or participated in any way. And I know that that's something I should probably be doing, but it's just something I haven't gotten around to yet.
I think
So,
you'd find success. You get like, it's weird because when it started, it was all like Joe Blow, but now you've got like really, really established people taking advantage of it. And yeah, I think it'd do good.
You'd be
I
shocked
think,
at the amount of money people will throw at name talent like Erik Larsen.
wow.
well,
Okay.
Sullivan Sluggers with Stoko. I think that was supposed to initially go through Image,
Uh-huh.
and they did it on Kickstarter, and they ended up doing really, really well for themselves.
Yeah,
Like
they
their
killed.
initial goal was like 20,000. I think they got over 100,000, and then they were able to do upgrades as they got more money. You know.
Yeah, they did amazing with their Kickstarter.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there's this webcomic I won't get into, but they had set a $700,000 goal for making a video game, and when it was over, they made $2.5 million.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're
Now, see,
people like prepaying for things, knowing what they're going to get.
Uh-huh.
It's odd. You'd think it wouldn't be the case, but the amount of money these things can raise is staggering sometimes.
Huh.
But
Yeah,
you got to be a known quantity, because there's a lot of Joe Blows, no names, who have a lot of projects that don't get funded because they don't have the clout. And that's really what brings the money in, is the clout.
Uh-huh. Well, the thing is too that doing conventions, you find that there's an awful lot of things that you can put out at a convention that people want, and but if you try to solicit those things and have them come through a store, that they wouldn't necessarily get the support that would be necessary in order for them to succeed. That's the thing is like, whenever I go and bring like, crack comics or fantastic comics or Herculean or any of those things out with me on the road when I'm in other places, they never saw those books. Their stores never ordered those books.
Right.
They've never seen they've never seen the Mr. Glum doll, even though every store can order the Mr. Glum doll now. There are plenty of copies of that thing sitting in a warehouse waiting for somebody to buy them. When I bring them to a convention, I'll sell tons of them because people, their stores just never got them.
And that's the thing about Kickstarter, is that you can target your actual audience as opposed to counting on other stores to assume what their audience is. You can, and that's the benefit of it.
It's really, I would love to see more creators, hint, hint, wink, wink, you step into like this kind of a thing, because I see like in the video game industry, people are really doing things that no one thinks can succeed. Like this is the weirdest example, but like we live in the age where like it's Call of Duty and Battlefield 3 and all these war games are just dominating the hell out of everything, making more money than movies. And nobody thinks that anything weird like a text-based adventure game would make any money. But then they do a Kickstarter, and these guys raise like $3 million in like 2 weeks for this text-based adventure. And it's sort of like, there you go. Publishers could never take a risk on that, but there's a huge demand for it.
I don't know if you guys
Eric,
know anything about tabletop games, but Steve Jackson Games has this game called Ogre that for years they've been wanting to do an update for, but didn't have any money. They did a Kickstarter, raised like $3 million, and sold it to everyone who wanted one. There's a demand there. It's just there isn't a demand in a retail sense.
Eric, what do you think about Mark Silvestri's Kickstarter, where he's giving away his like first 5 issues for free?
I think that's awesome. I think that makes a lot of it's just kind of a cool way of going about it. I'm not sure how the retailers. I'm not sure how they feel about it, because they actually have to buy it.
They got to
right?
pay a quarter. I think
it's kind of like
the general consensus was retailers aren't really super happy about it because there hasn't been enough promotion behind it. But they still got to pay 25 cents to give it away for free. So it's not the perfect model for them.
So it's kind of like free comic book day in a way.
Yeah, but 5 issues of it, right? Isn't that the idea?
Right. The first 5 issues are currently paid for. After that, either they may do another fundraiser or they'll start charging like normal.
Well, hopefully, they get people hooked and bring them in to add it to their pull list or whatever. But
they got me for 5 issues.
It was definitely a different way of thinking,
Yeah.
If Sim did his whole service digital thing, Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It seemed to do well. He's starting to actually like put those things together because how much he loves like dealing with diamonds. So it was sort of a match made in heaven, I guess.
Yeah.
Have you thought about doing volume 2 of Savage Dragon Companion with issue 200 coming up?
I think a lot of people who worked on it have thought about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I'm all for it if somebody else wants to do all the work.
That's another thing too. Like, you could do a digital one and have it on Comixology if
Yeah, well, there should be a digital version of the first one for that matter.
Yeah, why isn't there one? I didn't even think about that, but that would be a great 99-cent almost try to get somebody into the book type deal. But
I'd almost want to give that one away for free, but I'm not a
businessman.
Cool.
And then you could also combine it with a volume 2 and digitally. But I hope that somebody expresses interest and we see a volume 2, because I always even before the wiki or internet widespread internet use like we have now, is the first companion is always a great thing to give somebody. I used to have a few extra copies and just hand it out and be like, all right, you have no excuse not to get into Savage Dragon. Read this. It tells you everything you need to know. Jump into it.
Yeah.
But having something like Comixology is awesome, where you can say it's online. You just download it. Spend a buck.
It depends, because I don't know that Comixology is going to be everything for free. Let's make no money doing this stuff. Awesome.
Right. That's true. They get a cut.
At a certain point, they're going to put their foot down and go, wait a minute. We're not actually that about all this. So, whatever. I'll do all kinds of cool stuff. Don't you worry. How about that?
Do you have any idea what the next backup's going to be for Savage Dragon?
I think I'm going to kind of flounder around for a little while before I hit on any other serials, just because it's just been a couple long ones, and I think that it would be nice to just kind of back off a little bit and just go, okay, let's give this some breathing room, run some pinups or run something, just because the book has been so full that we haven't had time or space to really do much of anything else for a while.
Right.
It would kind of be nice to just be able to do some other little stuff if people want to do other little stuff, and then take it from there. There's a couple different artists who've either talked to me or approached me about doing some different backups, but I've just been hip deep in so much other junk that it gets very difficult, guys.
Yeah. It seems like you have a lot on your plate at any given moment.
Yeah, it's true. There ends up being an awful lot of just stuff that I'm committed to or wanting to do. And then people will be like, well, what about that story that you did we saw a splash page of guys in a van. When the hell's that coming out? And there's always stuff like that it's like, man, I haven't got to this yet, and I haven't got to that yet. and it's tough to, because at the same time, Savage Dragon's supposed to be this ongoing book, and it's like, man, this isn't the only thing I want to do. I want to do all this other stuff, and then there's other people call me up going, hey, you want to do this or that, and it's like, damn, man, it's tough to be able to do everything you want to do. People,
Right.
and I get all the time, hey, will you do a cover for my weird little alternate book, or do a pinup for my thing? Hey, I did a backup for you. You want to do a pinup for me? It's like, you know what? I can't actually do everything.
We still want to see that treasury book.
Yeah, that's it exactly. There's bunches of stuff that need to be done for that.
This past year, though, you've really been all over the place. I mean, we haven't gotten as many Savage Dragon issues as we wanted, but I mean, you did a little story for Madman. I mean, I think last November you had one of the next issue projects come out. You've done Supreme, Savage Dragon.
No, it's been a lot of little stuff here and there. And before that, I was doing stuff that was in Pop Gun, and just the Herculean thing came out not that long ago. And it just, a bunch of little things kind of come up. And I like that, too. I like having my name in a bunch of little projects. But it's tough when you're one guy. And then, and there's always those people who are like, why don't you just concentrate on Dragon? I don't like it when you're doing a million different things, because then your book doesn't come out as frequently, or it doesn't seem like you're paying as much attention to it, or I get the illusion that you're not paying as much attention to it because you're doing other stuff, and it's hard to please everybody all the time. And
Josh,
do what I can.
Josh Eichhorn mentioned you were writing a script for something. Can you is there anything you can divulge on that?
Yeah, that was a weird thing, as I just had an idea for a romantic comedy, and it was like, it has nothing to do with comics. Well, it kind of does, but it doesn't it's not any of my comic characters or anything. But there always ends up being some mention of comics in everything I do. But it was just one of those things where I had an idea that I was like, this wouldn't make for a great comic book, but it'd make for a pretty cool movie. So what the hell, man? Let's and so I just started writing it and going through that. But it's like, that's another whole bunch of stuff, when you start doing that, and it's like, there's another huge chunk of time out of your life.
Yeah. So is that something you're really serious about? Like, you've gotten
I'm pretty hip deep
into it.
It's pretty far along at this point. Yeah. So
that's cool.
We'll see. I mean, you never know. Sometimes things like that work out, and sometimes it doesn't. And then people, then the question becomes, how come you're doing that and you're not writing a Savage Dragon treatment? It's like, I'm writing a Savage Dragon treatment every month.
Yeah.
I don't really feel like I need to be doing that for a different format or whatever. I don't know. But technology,
on top of that, go ahead. Sorry,
I'm sorry. Technology is getting there finally for Savage Dragon as a movie, though. I'm pleased to see that. When I saw actually what the John Carter was the movie where I'm sitting there watching it going, for the first time, there are characters that are completely CGI that are on screen next to actual people. And for the first time, it's convincing. They really do look like they're as real as the real guy. And that's the first time that's happened in my movie going experience. Every time I've gone and seen anything, be it Avatar or whatever, Lord of the Rings, there's always this, well, here's the CGI guy standing the real guy. How weird is that? But you're sitting there watching that John Carter thing and going, this is seamless. there's just no way that these guys look different from the real people that are just sitting there standing there next to them. It was amazing. Completely tanked, but visually amazing.
I don't think the marketing on the movie was properly done.
Really?
Yeah, I thought the name. I thought the. Yeah. Oh, you're agreeing.
Everybody disagreed with you. Everybody thought that. Yeah. No. Yeah, no, it was a major fumble all the way around. I mean, that people were saying, "Oh, this is just a copy of Avatar," is like, look, there's clue one that you didn't do this properly. You didn't educate people with your marketing. You know that they weren't sitting there going, "Oh, this is a pre-existing property. Oh, is the creator of Tarzan. Oh, I didn't even get this."
Which is ridiculous for all the money you spend on a movie like that. Why you wouldn't properly, push it?
Yeah,
It's funny.
nuts.
Well, my problem was the title is just boring. It at least should have been called John Carter of Mars or something.
Yeah, I understand why they changed it, but it ultimately did not help it any. Because they had that movie Mars Needs Moms that just completely tanked the previous year, and so they were just skittish about tossing the word Mars on anything.
Wow, I didn't know that was the
God.
reason, but that's marketing
Mars
for
Attacks didn't do too well either.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah. So there you go.
Better hope when your movie comes out, some movie with the word dragon in it didn't tank.
Yeah, well, there you go.
Girl with the dragon tattoo. There you go.
Savage Dragon of Mars. Oh, totally. Just failed on every level.
So, it's a little off the record. Eric, how you doing for time?
My wife is telling me it's time for dinner, and I love my wife,
As you
but
should.
whatever. It's not like I haven't eaten dinner before.
I do want to ask one, if we're going to wrap this up, one question is, as 2012 comes to an end, what were your favorite comics that came out in this past year?
Honestly, I didn't read a lot. It's been a really busy year for me, and so it's like the Image stuff. I've been reading Invincible. That's all good. I've been reading Walking Dead. That's all good. In
What
terms
did you
of
think about Glory? I know we were talking about strong female characters.
I like Glory a lot. I like Glory a whole lot. And
I thought that last issue 29, was pretty insane.
Yeah. Well, and the thing about being in the position that I'm in is that I get to see the next issue. So 30 is on its way, guys.
Cool.
It's pretty damn cool. So yeah, no, I mean it's been nice to see Joe Keating come in on his own in that. And the Hell Yeah book is also it's growing, it's getting better with each issue.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't as taken with the art in that as I was in the art in Glory, but
I agree.
The guy's stepping up and he is getting better. So it's like, you know what, this could work too. So
I really like the artist for Bloodstrike, and I'm kind of disappointed that he's going to be off the book, but I've never seen his work before. He kind of reminds you of that Cory Walker type.
Yeah, it not everything works, unfortunately.
Yeah.
As much as we might like it to, sometimes things just come out and people go, I don't really care. And I think, part of the relaunch of the Extreme books was, I think that there was a little period here where people just weren't taken with Rob in general. That he had either done or said something that kind of rubbed people the wrong way, and they let's face it, the retailers by and large aren't on his side, even though I think a lot of fans are, and I think they kind of flexed their muscle going into the launch of this stuff where they weren't supporting it as much as they should have. And I think the real evidence of that is the comparison of sales of Glory and Hell Yeah. That Hell Yeah is selling considerably better than Glory is.
That's amazing.
Really?
Glory's a better book. You know?
Yeah.
Of the two, I mean,
All the extreme books have
story and whatever. It's like that's a solid book, and yet you know the retailers looking at it as we're going to support you on your own thing, but I don't know, these Rob Liefeld things, those never last. So, and then that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's really shocking to me, because almost universally every book that came out of the Extreme relaunch was critically acclaimed.
Yeah, and they're all critical darlings, and
they all sell 6,000 copies or less.
Yeah, and they're not setting the world on fire, which is, you know, a real shame, because there's some good stuff in there.
Well, and it's amazing, and Rob's really let these guys kind of run on their own, like, and they're not real established guys. I mean, they have some stuff out there, but he's giving a lot of trust to these guys, and it's paying off. And it's just, you know, I wish it would sell more.
Yeah, agreed. I don't
know. You got to wonder, if it didn't have the Extreme branding, how many copies they would be selling.
Oh, I think if Glory was called something else and it was the exact same book, that it probably would be doing way better than it's doing now. And it's like, well, that's kind of a shame too. But yeah. I don't know what you can do about that.
Right.
There's a retailer near where I used to work that is banned all of Rob's books. I don't know if they changed at all after the reviews started coming in for profit and everything. But it seems like, what can you do in a situation where here's a shop where it's like, Rob, I'm not going to allow any Rob books in my shop, but it's like he's not even on these books. Well,
and it's the guys going, you know what, I've been burned one too many times by this guy, and it's like, well, he's not even doing the books, and it's like, well, too bad, because you're kind of missing out on some really kind of, I think, innovative books that are coming out of this line. The guys are really trying some different stuff on a lot of them, and there's some cool stuff here.
I was just totally shocked that Extreme was like my favorite comics of 2012. I was like, what the hell?
Same here.
Yeah, what kind of world is this?
It was, I don't know, yeah, it's a bizarro world, yeah.
Cats and dogs living together.
But I loved it.
It's crazy.
So with 2013 coming up, can you give us any kind of new bits of information on what we should expect from Savage Dragon? Like something we haven't heard yet, or?
I don't know what you haven't heard yet. What have you heard?
I don't know. Something that's not been released on the internet.
Overlord Unmasked.
Well, the thing is that really at this point, it's kind of in a building period again for the book, because, you know, Dragon's coming back into the title, and then he's going to be more involved in the book again, and then he goes on trial, and then, you know, following that, I really am trying to set up kind of the next generation of superheroes, supervillains, and what have you. Angel's going to be leaving the title here shortly.
Oh no! I am gonna cry.
Oh, sorry, but what can you say? She's graduating from high school in the issue I am inking right this minute, and at that point, there's really not that much kind of keeping her around Chicago, at least, and so she's kind of going to be going off on her own and kind of discovering what she wants to do. Not that we're not going to touch on her and make sure she's doing okay and stuff like that, but it's not going to be Power Man Iron Fist anymore. It's going to be It's going to be back to being just Power Man. And then, following that, then we head into the next phase of the book, which is going to be more of what I call my Batman Beyond phase, where Dragon sort of becomes the mentor type to Malcolm, sort of helping him really come into his own, doing the superhero stuff. And also, I really want to do some stories that center around the villains, and I haven't done enough of that, where we really delve into who are these guys and what do they do when they're not doing what they do, or what is it that they actually do, period. It's like, we know they're bad guys, but what does Dung physically do other than shoot poop? This is actual. What is his, for lack of a better word, what is his actual duties?
Well, I think that was the cool thing about the Thunderhead character too, that he's like a Malcolm villain, and we got a lot of backstory on him. Yeah. And it made him a real interesting character. You just see him trying to hold down a job as a freak, and having to go to a life of crime.
Yeah, but we don't really know. Like, does Dung have any kids? We don't know. We don't know anything really about his life at all. We know
how
nothing.
Does Dung eat?
How does he function in any way?
How does he open doors without hands?
Any number of things. I mean, is it all just kicking doors down for that guy? I mean, he only goes to 7-Elevens where the doors open automatically. Oh, thank heaven.
Like, constipation is super disappointing for him.
There's a lot of things, a lot of unanswered questions with a lot of the villains, and I would also like just to be able to go, oh, and here are the sons of these characters, or the daughters of these characters, some of which have been hinted at, and some of which have not been. We had that thing with Inferno talking about how he's got a daughter and she needs dental work, that sort of thing. But we've never seen the daughter. We don't know what the daughter actually does. We don't know really anything about her. And we don't know a lot of anything about a lot of the characters. It's like, well, okay, well, if you've got a daughter, then presumably you've got either a wife or girlfriend. How's that work? What's that all about? Where do you live? What's your house like? What's your what's your whole existence like? You're sitting there sweating your house payments and condo, or do you all live in a big mansion together, or what the hell, man?
And you touched on that a little bit in the beginning of the series with, like, the Rock Gang, living in Pipeland, or whatever what was called, Pipe Town. And they were kind of just a bunch of freaks, shunned by society. And it seems that as the book's gone on and Savage Dragon's more integrated with society, that freaks are more openly accepted. So it's an interesting thing to see in the book.
Yeah, agreed. But there's still, people go, oh, you've done so much in the book with so many characters. I was talking to a number of guys at the New York convention, just me going, okay, well, what do you want to have happen in issue 200? And a lot of the discussion is, you've done every event through the course of the book already. You've had the character die. You've had, new costumes all over the place. You've had him fight doppelgangers. You've had him fight his ultimate villains. You've had him fight collections of his villains. You've had him, essentially it's like all these different things that are normally events in all these other books, you've already done them.
Yeah.
Over the course of your regular series. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what you should do for issue 200. And that does become a discussion. It's like, okay, what do you think? It's coming up. Shouldn't I be building to something? But I also don't want to start doing another big sweeping event because those get old too. We just can we just have this be small for a while? He doesn't have to fight Galactus every damn time. Can we just?
Well, I think we all agreed here too. We were talking before you came on about issue 182, how we all really, really liked this issue, and it kind of harkens back to the day when it was, just centered around Chicago, and you had 4 or 5 subplots going on, and this issue just really clicked with a lot of, Dragon fans I've talked to.
What's interesting is that this was an issue that I really struggled with initially, and because I was sitting there and I had even started it, and I had different sequences going on, and eventually it just came down to, what, screw all that other stuff. Let me just start with an opening action sequence and pay off this other thing that had been set up some time ago, rather than have it start off, because initially I think I was going to start with Angel graduating or Angel's birthday or some such, and it was just like, come on, let's just see something unexpected, see something we haven't seen in the book before, or in a while, or whatever. Just have there be a surprise. And I think people are receptive to opening up the book and going, I was not expecting these characters to be in this book at all. What the hell? That's cool. I think readers like to be surprised with stuff like that.
Well, what surprised me specifically about 182, the opening events, was when you had first brought up the whole Project Born Again stuff with Thunderhead and his dad. We all kind of assumed it was going to be a story arc, and you basically resolved it, suddenly and in a surprising twist.
Yeah, there you go, kids. The end.
But it also served to kind of advance the Thunderhead character. It didn't have to be a big event, but now Dragons and Malcolm's kind of stopped him from having his father get resurrected, but at the same time, he's learned that he's his genetic brother, in a way, genetic half brother. But there's a lot going on there. It's now Thunderhead is he's a pretty important character to the book.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where that goes.
It was extremely rewarding. Yeah, I mean, the surprise of seeing Thunderhead and that plot line just wrap up in a couple of pages, I was like, hell yeah, give me more.
Well, more's on its way. So there's that. And at this point, I do need to pull out of here, or I'm going to be hung up to dry.
I have one last question. Yes or no?
All right.
Will we know who Overlord is for sure next issue?
Yes.
Awesome.
Is it you?
Is it Erik Larsen the whole time?
Yeah, I can't say. All right.
Cool. Well, thank you very much, Erik.
All right.
Appreciate you being with us. See you.
Awesome.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
I knew it was Erik.
Yeah, bald guy with the big brow. What did I say?
That's it. You called it.
Another awesome Erik Larsen interview, if I do say so.
Yeah, it's always great to have him on.
Yeah, it's just so good.
And he's always like, I don't know, funny. Really kind of like you don't know what the hell he's going to say.
Yeah, definitely was a good choice for our 1 year episode.
Yep. And speaking of which, before we go, we should probably thank a few people who have really helped us out over the last year getting things set up. Number one, of course, I want to thank my good internet friend, Eric Schonborn, who I probably butchered the name of, so what kind of friend am I? He He helped me out in the early days to get web hosting, to actually put the FINcast website up and get the podcast up. So really, without his help, this never would have happened.
Mhm.
I'd known him online for several years. He's an artist, and he's a very creative artist in my opinion. And I've been following him pretty closely these last few years. But yeah, he really helped me out by lending a hand, teaching me the ins and outs of things like bit rates and how to work with um, WordPress, all that good technical stuff that I like to pretend I understand.
Yeah, and he runs his own podcast, right?
Oh my.
Like Gutter Trash. I've listened to a bunch of episodes and it's pretty
Yeah,
entertaining.
Gutter Trash is cool because they go back and forth between reviewing movies and reviewing graphic novels.
Yeah,
I think he does
it's
another one called League Night, which I think they watch Justice League cartoons, like, and analyze them.
it's pretty funny. It's just him and another guy, and it's just like you feel like you're just like listening in, like spying in on two friends' conversation, which is pretty cool. And they've got like over 200 episodes, so you can go back and like pick and choose. If there's some movie that you were thinking about watching, you can kind of listen to their rants about it. And they're at guttertrash.net, which is, they also host our site.
Yeah. We should also thank all the various hosts we've had over the course of the podcast, who some of them haven't been able to be with us the entire time. Of course, Gavin, who we talked about earlier.
It's Gavin Higginbotham, yep.
And
Nick, Adam Pruitt,
who we did just hear. But yeah, Adam unfortunately hasn't been able to be with us as regularly as he had been. But whenever
He's a busy man.
He is a busy man. He's got things are happening for him right now, which is really cool.
Same with Nick Justice, busy man, but great stuff with him too.
Yep, Nick Justice, of course, was our host on our number 0 episode that kicked off the whole thing. I kind of want to have him back on at some point, but haven't really heard from him lately. So if you're out there, buddy, you drop us a line.
Yep. And also thanks to Image Addiction, the imageaddiction.net, which is hosts a family of podcasts and generously allowed us to mix it up with them, so you can get you can also get episodes of the FINcast at imageaddiction.net, and they're kind of like everything Image Comics. They have their own podcast. It's just all Image Comics. They have the Process podcast, which talks to different writers and artists. I think mostly it's writers for our Image Comics series. I think it's kind of like a podcast that helps other writers learn, how to deal with comics and the ups and downs of the business. And then they also have a weekly roundup, which every week I think it's Chris Parton himself kind of talks about the Image books coming up. I think the guys from Evangeline had a website. I had a podcast. I don't know if that's still on there, but I know there's a new one now out called Talking About Our Issues, which is a podcast by
It's a good
Mark.
name.
Yeah. I forget the name of the guy that's running that podcast, but I think every issue, in every episode, they're going to try to talk to like a creator on that too. So there's a lot of cool podcasts over there. I probably butchered the information about half of what I talked about, but I enjoy going there. I enjoy listening to their podcasts. I'm happy that they've included us in their family, and it's definitely worth your time to check it out if you like Image books.
Yeah. And I want to make a very special personal thanks to the Legion of Substitute Podcasters, who, without listening to their show, I never would have believed that you could do a podcast about one long-running book. And it was basically, this show was directly inspired by their show. And so I'll plug them quick. They're found at paulfrench.ca/LOSP/, which is kind of a clunky web address.
But it'll be on the page, right?
I'll put it up. But yeah, those guys, they inspired me. And I really, without that inspiration, I probably wouldn't even bother sending out the emails to put some people together and get this done. So I gotta
Cool.
plug them.
Well, and thanks to you, Jim, for putting this together. You've had
Yes,
a blast
sir.
over the past year. It's been fun.
It's definitely, I will always say it, definitely enhanced my Savage Dragon experience.
Cool.
It's just like, it's cool to read the issue. There are not a lot of Savage Dragon fans in my life. So it's cool to just have, I mean, even before I was on the show, it's just cool to hear like Savage Dragon fans talking about it. So yes, very appreciated. Thank you for your hard work.
Yeah, I agree. Try to make the show something that we'd like to hear as Dragon fans, and I think we've done it pretty well so far. So, cool.
Cool.
Should we talk
All right.
about the next episode?
Next episode.
Let's do it.
We're actually not entirely certain what we're gonna have next episode, but I think one of two things is possible.
Ooh.
The first, Savage Dragon 183. We got the solicitation. I got the solicitation copy sitting in front of me, and that says it's the special 20th anniversary issue. It's the final showdown between Overlord and Savage Dragon. This is the big one. It's all been leading up to this. Secrets revealed, blood spilled, butts kicked. Comes with the highest possible recommendation. And I know the final cover hasn't been revealed, but the solicitation image shows kind of like a fight bill with the headshots of Dragon and Overlord. States Battle of the Century. Dragon versus Overlord, fist to fist for the final time. And that issue also has that Chris G variant cover. Chris G, who's the artist of G-Man, he's got that kind of kid-friendly, cartoony look. He's going to have a variant cover. It's his version of number 1 from the Savage Dragon miniseries.
Right.
But to get just on this issue, it should be an interesting issue, and I think we'll have a lot to talk about if this is what's going to be on the next episode, because apparently from our interview with Erik, he said this is the issue that we'll definitely know who Overlord is, and it says Overlord versus Savage Dragon, so I take that as Savage Dragon comes back to Earth in this issue as well. So I think there'll be a whole heck of a lot to talk about with this one. It'll be exciting.
Very much looking forward to that one.
Also a possibility. We've Supreme 67.
Yeah.
May or may not be out by that time.
I guess we kind of learned a little bit that that one might have some difficulties getting here, but I've seen some preview art. Son of Chrome appeared on Facebook from Corey. I'm excited. I think things are going to be positive. So, and I couldn't be more excited for this issue. This issue is on the tip of everyone's tongue when the book got announced. So this truly is the fight everyone's been wanting. Supreme 67 solicitation is Supreme Madness. From the pages of Invincible comes the most requested Supreme opponent of all time. Enter Omni-Man. And Supreme is out of control. This is mean Supreme. Suprema is at death's door. Ethan Crane is in a bad way. Can even Omni-Man hope to save the day? So we will see. And the cover shows Supreme facing off against Omni-Man for the Superhero Championship of the World, which it's an homage to Superman and Shazam. Is that right?
Yeah, I forget
Yes.
which issue. We talked about it in one of the prior podcasts, but I can't remember the exact issue that homages.
It's going to be an awesome slugfest. That's really all you need to know.
Yeah, dude. Can you just record yourself reading solicitations for me so I can just listen to it on my commute to work? That's pretty awe-inspiring. I'd probably buy every book that you read in solicitation to.
I was trying to channel that Dragon Ball announcer, Will Goku get out of the pit or whatever,
So yeah, we don't know what's gonna come out, but you can be sure that we'll be there for a new episode. And if nothing comes out, maybe we'll just find someone to interview.
Just some bum off the street, whoever we can, round up, give him a ham sandwich, maybe.
You'd be like, I like a sandwich, Dragon.
So yeah,
Sandwich Dragon.
the Savage FINcast is a part of the Gutter Trash Network and the Image Addiction family of podcasts. It can be found at either fincast.guttertrash.net or imageaddiction.net.